Operation a little more in depth. I'm now joined live by Robert Weiner. He's the former US drug policy spokesman there in New York. Thanks very much indeed for joining us here on RT. Well, as we heard some of the reasons in that report a little earlier.
Thank you for having me, Bill.
Pleasure. Great to talk to you. We heard some of the reports, some of the reasons in that report a little earlier about the reasons for Russia to get involved in the fight against Afghan drug production. From your point of view, why is it so important that Russia should now be involved?
Well, congratulations on this first ever joint effort. When I worked in the White House Drug Policy Office, we did joint agreements, the first ever with China, with Vietnam. We did not do one with Russia, and it's unfortunate that it has taken this long to really come together with you. There's been a reluctance in the United States to even go after the drug trade in Afghanistan. It's been a policy of the military to let it go, and that's tragic. And it's unbelievable to me that it took Russia to tell the United States where the drug labs were. When we have 100,000 troops, we've spent $80 billion on intelligence, we have 100,000 additional contractors. So we had to know. We're crawling all over every inch of that country. But it took you to, in fact, to out the United States, to force us and to embarrass us to cooperate with you to stop the drug trade, which is in the interest of the entire world, including the United States.
But didn't the U.S.
as your report said, drugs finance the terrorists.
Can I just ask you, though, but didn't the U.S. military have a very good argument saying that, look, we're not going to eradicate the fields. The farmers there in Afghanistan need to grow poppies in order to provide themselves with a living. And if you do destroy those crops, then you've got to provide them with something alternative. But perhaps, do you think, in the light of this recent success, we could actually see these crops now being destroyed?
Well, I've discussed this matter with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and she is very grateful for the support of the world and for the United States Congress in crop substitution, in alternatives to opium. But the drug labs are only 1/3 of the opium that comes from Afghanistan, and the rest makes heroin all over the world, regardless of the labs in Afghanistan. It's just not a matter of only producing it in Afghanistan. So you have got to eradicate, and a very positive step has taken place. There's a new drug czar in Russia, Mr. Ivanov, and the new drug czar for the United Nations, Yuri Fedotov, because the old drug czar in the United Nations was against eradication. Now, on the matter of survival of the farmers, we're not out to make happy farmers in Afghanistan who make money off killing the youth of the world, including in Russia. That's not a trade that we want them to have. Yes, we must have alternatives, and the alternatives can include wheat and many other items, but there have got to be crop substitutions in addition to the eradication of the fields, as there has been in Colombia, which has cut Colombian cocaine by 50% very successfully. So eradication works. But in the past, the military has, for the very arguments you've stated, been reluctant, claiming that it would make instability. We don't want a stable, drug-producing Afghanistan.
The problem is, though, is it not the demand for the drugs that come from outside of Afghanistan, and the problem not being the supply? You've surely got to tackle the demand problem in the US, in Russia indeed, and in Europe.
No question about it. And education works. It's not the demand, though, that drives it. You know, when people want to do illegal things, if you take away their availability to do the illegal things, it does dry up the supply, and then it dries up the use. So it's both. It's supply and demand. But there should be a massive education in Afghanistan, because addiction is growing by leaps and bounds right in the country that's producing the drugs. It's destroying the country itself. And in Russia, and in the United States, and in Europe. And a massive TV education program and teaching people the dangers of drug use would be very helpful.
Just finally, you were saying the impetus for this last operation came from Russia, and the US needed encouragement to do this. Tell us, in what way, though, do you think Russia can now help?
Correct.
In what way now do you think Russia can help further the US, and just how much is the US welcoming Russia's help?
Well, there have been 4 labs busted out of 175, 171 to go, and eradication of the fields to go. The United Nations drug czar, Yuri Fedotov, can be as outspoken as he's been, calling for eradication and calling for an aggressive drug policy. It's great that Russia has their person, and it's a person who serves the world in the United Nations now in such a leadership position, because the last guy was a problem. He was stopping an effective drug policy in Afghanistan. So there are many positive ways to go. And President Obama is clearly responsive. This was a policy that started with Rumsfeld, and it's been carried over of reluctance by the military. So it looks like things are changing. That's terrific.
Robert Weiner, fascinated to hear what you have to say. We really appreciate your time here on RT. Thank you very much indeed. Former US drug policy spokesman joining us live in New York. Thank you.